Welcome back. Today we're at St Michael's Church in Madeley, Shropshire. Tucked away around the side is this beautiful mosaic headstone. The inscription reads, "In loving memory of Charles Arthur, son of George and Edith Turner, born October the 28th, 1898, died 6th of November 1906, aged 8 years. Just to the side of the headstone, an information board reads, "The Turner Memorial. In 1906, 8-year-old Charles Arthur Turner was playing with friends near Meadow Pit, a local mine of which the pit mound still survives next to the junction of Ironbridge Road and Glendinning Way. Close to where the children were playing was the easily accessible and inadequately fenced discharge pit for the hot water from the mine's winding engine boiler. While attempting to protect his young brother from accident, the boy fell into the pit himself, sustaining severe scalding. Medical facilities of the time being limited, he succumbed to his injuries and died 17 days after the accident. The subsequent inquest recorded a verdict of death due to scalds accidentally received. Unable to afford a professionally made tombstone, the family painstakingly assembled this unique mosaic memorial using the skills of Arthur's mother, who was a worker at Moore's Tilery. Following deterioration over the years, the memorial has been restored in 2005 through the efforts of the Madeley Local Studies Group on behalf of the people of Madeley with assistance from the Heritage Lottery Fund. Charles Turner first appears on the 1901 census, and he and his family are living at New Road in Madeley. The original houses up here were demolished sometime in the 20th century, and the road is right next to the pit where Charles was injured. Living in the house is George Turner, aged 26, and he works as an electric dynamo assistant. This could possibly have been at the Meadow Pit. There is also his wife, Edith Annie, aged 28, Charles Arthur, aged 2, and 2-month-old Eva Annie. The accident occurs on the 20th of October 1906, and 8-year-old Charles dies from his terrible injuries on the 6th of November. I can only find one newspaper article from the time covering the story, and that is from the Wellington Journal, dated the 10th of November 1906. It reads, "Sad fatality at Madeley. Life lost in saving another. Mr. Coroner F.H. Potts held an inquiry at Madeley on Wednesday, touching the death of Arthur Turner, aged 8 years. George Turner, father of the deceased, a colliery winder residing in Park Street, said that on October the 20th, his brother Charles brought the deceased home, saying that he had fallen into the boiling water at the Meadow Pit. The lad was scalded from his knees downwards. Dr. Reynolds attended to the injuries and visited the boy up to his death, which occurred on Tuesday. The deceased told witness that in saving his little brother, he fell into the water himself. The water was about a yard deep. Deceased had been in the Meadow Pit playing cricket with other boys. There was no public road or footpath within 80 yards of the place where he fell in. The hot water was from the boiler of the engine at the pits, which was emptied into this ditch once a month, and they were emptying the boiler when the deceased fell in. James Stewart and George Jinks, 2 little boys, also gave evidence. Jeanette Ward, wife of a banksman, stated that she saw from her window the deceased fall into the water. The jury returned a verdict of death from scalds accidentally received. On the 1911 census, the family are now living at 81 Park Street. The numbers have changed over the years, so it is hard to pinpoint which one was their house. Charles's father George is now 36, and he is a stationary engineman colliery winder. Edith is 38. Eva Annie is 10. There are 3 more children: George Albert, aged 7, Francis Bertram, aged 5, and Phyllis Miriam, aged 1. And I can only presume that the little brother Charles was trying to protect was George Albert, who would have been 2 years old in 1906. 10 years later, on the 1921 census, and the family are still living at 81 Park Street, George Turner is 47 and employed as a colliery engine man by the Madeley Wood Colliery Company. His wife is listed as Annie Edith and she's 48 and does home duties. Eva Annie is now 20 and a dressmaker working at Hunter and Peters on Wildcop in Shrewsbury. George Albert is 18 and he is a colliery office clerk working for the Madeley Wood Colliery Company. Francis Bertram is 14 and he works as an ironworks labourer employed by the Court Works Company. Phyllis Miriam is 11. There is also now Sydney John, aged 8, and Cecilia Florence, aged 5. Charles's father, George, died on the 5th of January 1935, aged 60. He passed away at the Lady Forrester Hospital in Broseley. The cause of death was cardiac failure and malignant stomach, which is stomach cancer. The death certificate records his residence as Craig Home on Park Lane, and his occupancy was a stationary engineer at Roofing Tile Works. On the 1939 register, Charles's widowed mother, Edith, is living with extended family at number 4 Council House in Madeley. With the help from Madeley residents on Facebook, we have worked this out to be on Ironbridge Road in Madeley. Edith Annie Turner is now 66 and she does unpaid domestic duties. Her son Sydney John lives with her. He is 27 and a maintenance engineer at Rubberworks. They live in the house with Edith's daughter Eva Annie, who is now 38 and she does unpaid domestic duties. Eva's husband, 39-year-old Joseph Edward Turbill, who is a colliery storekeeper. They have a son named Francis Frederick George Turbill, aged 12. Also in the house there is Phyllis Helena Jones, aged 16, who does unpaid domestic duties, and 2 brothers named George Alex Thomas Taylor, aged 13, and Ronald Francis John Taylor, aged 10. I don't know the link between these 3 and the rest of the family. So that is the history of Charles, the accident, and his family after his passing. But what about that headstone? The information states that his mother made it and that she worked at Moore's tile factory. But when did she work there? There is no mention on the census of Edith Ann Turner working other than doing domestic duties, which we all know is the census describing housework. So I was stumped. Until I put a plea out on the Madeley History group on Facebook. I got a few comments, but one would send me down a new rabbit hole of research. A lady named Charlotte Ross Dulac stated that she was distantly related to Edith Ann, and that Edith's maiden name was Tonkis, and that she was originally from Broseley. So I wondered maybe she worked at Moore's prior to getting married. I knew she was already married to George Turner in 1901, so I searched on the 1891 census for Edith Ann Tonkis, and I found her, living on Quarry Road in Broseley with her parents and siblings. James Tonkis, her father, is 46 and an encaustic tile maker. Her mother Rebecca is also 46. She has an older brother Richard, aged 23, and he is an encaustic glaze tile sorter. And then Annie Edith, as she's listed, aged 18, and she works as a mosaic fixer. She has 6 younger siblings, but there it is, in black and white. She's a mosaic fixer at a tile works. From their house on Quarry Road in Broseley, they most likely would have walked to the tile factory and back again. She did work at Moore's, just not when Charles died. But if she's not working at the tile factory in the period after her son died, where did she get the tile pieces from? Seeing as her family were working at Moore's when Edith was, I wondered were some of them still there in 1906 when Charles died. So I searched for her father James on the 1901 and 1911 census, and yes, in 1901 James Tonkis is 56 and still an encaustic tile maker, and so are 2 of his sons, Samuel, aged 20, and George, aged 17, and they are encaustic tile sorters. And on the 1911 census, James is 65 and a general labourer at encaustic tile works, and his son Samuel is now 30 and an earthenware tile sorter. So it would have been her family over in Broseley who collected up the tile pieces for her to make into the beautiful mosaic headstone we see today. We can only assume that Edith worked at Moore's for about 10 years or so before leaving to get married and have children. But what amazing skill she had, not only to design but carry out the amazing artwork. There was one question still bugging me. Why can I only find one newspaper article on the accident? Did the mining company want it keeping quiet as they were to blame for there being easy access to the pit area? We will never know. All we know is that Meadow Pit closed in 1920 and Charles's family would have seen the place he was tragically injured every day, and for his mother probably for the rest of her life. In 1999, a remembrance garden was built near to the site of the pit, not only for Charles but for the miners who tragically lost their lives, but this has since gone. And as for his mother, she died in 1967 at the grand old age of 96.